And now, we're at the beginning of the AI wave.
AMD got a warm welcome for its beloved AI when MIT hosted AMD CEO and second best CEO in the Huan family, Lisa Su. You can really hear how much the students loved her. In the distance, they're shouting, "Su! Su!" I'm sure that rather than a Computex keynote, CEO Lisa Su opted for an interview with Taiwan's Commonwealth magazine to talk about what actually matters to the company.
People sometimes talk about AI bubble. Everybody is so friendly. Everyone loves each other. Even if they're competitors, it doesn't matter.
But in between giddily talking about how competitors openly engage in what seems to us to be antitrust violations to fuck over consumers, AMD also had other news. AMD had other news.
AI is not always right. People sometimes talk about AI bubble. They ask all the time, can this be real? Should we really invest so much right now? And my answer is this.
And like her cousin Jensen Huang just did on stage again, Lisa Su is also pushing the concept of AI agents using PCs rather than people, or as the execu lizards call them, humans.
You've heard about agents. I can say agents are really driving tremendous demand in the overall AI adoption cycle, and we're very excited to be in the middle of it.
Sound familiar?
Those billions of agents will all use tools, and those tools are going to be like PCs, just like us humans using PCs today. In the future, you'll have an agent using PC.
This is definitely real. And we are still so early.
Now, we didn't get pre-briefed like the other media, so I guess this is our second I told you so moment for the past couple weeks. This one for when our multiple peers didn't believe we were actually blacklisted back when AMD stopped answering any of our questions when we were asking them repeatedly about Lisa Su's deepening government connections. Misspoke. AMD is launching its 4-year-old 5800X3D again. Also, a new worse SKU of the 7800X3D from 2023, now as the 7700X3D, and the RX 9070 GRE. And this time, there's an embargo, likely at 9 a.m. Eastern, but it may be Taipei time. I don't know. They don't fucking tell me anything. In an email obtained by Gamers Nexus, AMD's partners have been trying to embargo the media for a GPU that it launched a year ago and that we reviewed months ago. I want to be really clear about this. We already reviewed it. The GPU is not new. They are trying, through their partners at least, to put people under embargo, under NDA, to review a thing that is publicly available on the open market that anyone could have bought in the last year. There's a city chicken behind you. I'm getting off track. They're trying to embargo people for something that's already out. Which, night herons aside, that is not how NDAs work. That's not how you can't NDA a thing that's already publicly out. AMD right now is basically trying to line up the media like a bunch of marionette dolls. This isn't the first time AMD's done this either. But it is the most recent, and it's at a time when they are in dire need of good PR, and when it seems like they're trying to manipulate people to hype up a thing that will maybe drive some amount of consumer sales. For the record, AMD still hasn't answered any of our questions since we questioned the company on its donations to the MAGA Inc. Super PAC, which recently was involved in tipping the scales of the Kentucky election. After we reported on AMD's connections to MAGA Inc., the company stopped including us in product launch briefings. For us, we'd rather be blacklisted than worry about whether we are or aren't allowed to cover AMD's donations to an organization that we think is undermining actually the American people. Like, it's not just consumers at this point. It's like literally democracy is the way that these super PACs, especially that one, are functioning. We brought you this video with store.gamersnexus.net where we currently have a coupon code that you can use at checkout. The code is I told you so. You can type in I told you so at checkout to get a free pack of our Snowflake the Data Pirate coins. Each pack consists of 4 differently colored metal coins that all have Snowflake the Data Pirate on one side and the GN Smuggling Co. logo on the other side. Because I don't use AI to vibe code and I do things the old hacky way, which is fumbling my way through them, that code is going to show up as a 1 penny discount when you place your order, and that will tell our store to include the coins. Isn't non-vibe coding fun? While you're on the store getting your pack of Snowflake the Data Pirate coins, the doubloons that we specially made with 3D machining and everything for the coins, you can also get our gold Halo GPU VRAM glassware, our copper-plated stainless steel mule mugs with thermal conductivity on them, or our project and soldering mats, which are useful for not just soldering, but all kinds of art projects and crafting. You might also consider grabbing one of our large anti-static mod mats. We have the GN15 version up there that we launched for our 15th anniversary a couple years ago, and we've been selling the mod mats now for about 8 years or so. If you need a large PC building surface or just a rugged surface that will protect the desk while you're working on it. You can grab all of that and more, like our GPU Shredder shirts or our Microslop t-shirts on store.gamersnexus.net to support our travel. We're out here in Taipei for 2 weeks to cover Computex and the rest of the show and everything connected to it. So this is funded directly by the audience supporting us. We don't allow companies to pay for any of our travel or pay us to go to booths. So basically we get out here because of your support. You can go to store.gamersnexus.net, use code ITOLDYOUSO at checkout to get the coins. Back to it. Did you hear that Google is releasing tens of millions of mosquitoes in Florida? No? Okay. AMD wants everyone to know that AI is definitely not a bubble.
People sometimes talk about AI bubble. They ask all the time, can this be real? Should we really invest so much right now? And my answer is, this is definitely real. And we are still so early.
And they want you to know that there's room for growth.
Lisa, as a journalist, I think people will always try to ask the question and get accurate answers. But for you, I feel like you always talk about the trends. It's really hard to give an accurate timeline about when things
What kind of accurate answer would you like? I think we will definitely see AI PC growth, without a doubt. Significant double-digit growth in AI PCs. The exact number is not so important.
Yes. I keep hitting that.
Yes, the important thing is, are we investing in the right places?
Despite a lack of noteworthy consumer product news, AMD announced plans to invest over $10 billion in Taiwan's AI infrastructure, as they call it, in addition to announcing that it's begun ramping production of its latest generation EPYC CPUs. This follows NVIDIA's own promises of a $150 billion investment. Surely that doesn't make things awkward at family dinners. Lisa, your cousin, put $150 billion in. You think you could do a little better, maybe? But for as little consumer news as there is, we'll cover what we have. The 5800X3D is a goated CPU, and on AM4, and unchanged from its original spec, now shipping with a 10th anniversary edition. The CPU is a Zen 3 part with 8 cores, 16 threads via SMT, and it runs at 4.5 GHz max advertised boost with a 3.4 GHz base clock. Cache sits at 96 megabytes L3 with a 105 watt TDP. The CPU is on the AM4 socket, which is also goated, and for which we're happy to give AMD credit. AMD says it's shipping a thermal interface material with the CPU as a desperate grasp at anything they could find at a local distributor on the shelf in the back of the warehouse to commemorate the relaunch of its 10th anniversary CPU for the 4th anniversary of the 5800X3D. To be fair, AM4 is 10 years old, but AMD is launching its 10th anniversary 5800X3D on June 25th for $350. Personally, I look forward to when they try to embargo a bunch of media on reviewing a CPU that they already reviewed 4 years ago. It'll be fun to see who plays along. No, seriously, I'm watching. When it first launched, the 5800X3D was $450, but it was regularly available around or even under $300 as it got later in life. So to be clear, the 5800X3D is an excellent CPU. We recommended it then, and we still like it now. And AM4 is an awesome platform. But both of those come from a time when AMD wasn't actively, we think, undermining democracy by donating to organizations like MAGA Inc., which, by the way, it hasn't done anything like that in the political sphere for about 2 decades now. So this is not business as usual. This is like new for them. But they come from a different time for AMD. And this was supposed to be an easy PR victory for AMD, which they have still somehow managed to fumble in classic AMD fashion of grabbing defeat out of the jaws of victory, because they are relaunching a 4-year-old, multiple generation architecture old, $350 CPU in 2026 because they know people can't afford to go to AM5 because the memory is expensive, which AMD is partly responsible for. And so while their own customers are stranded on AM4 because they already have memory for that platform, AMD gets to benefit again by launching a too expensive relaunch of a now old CPU to try to help, I guess. So they've totally lost the plot, and now they're acting like vultures, preying on their own past customers to extract money out of them one last time, since those customers are caught between platforms. AMD is also launching its 7700X3D, which is technically a new CPU, but on an older process. The 7700X3D is an 8-core part with 104 megabytes of total cache, a 4.5 gigahertz max advertised boost, a target MSRP of $330, and the 7800X3D, which has a 5 gigahertz max advertised boost, is a substantial difference by clock speeds, in the very least, on the spec sheet. You can currently get a 7800X3D still for around $360 or so this isn't really that exciting. Grasping at even more straws, though, AMD announced that it's extending support for AM5 through 2029, which isn't as good as it sounds. This, other than being an attempt at a PR play, is actually signaling something far more important, which is that they don't care. Like, they're not launching consumer stuff anymore. The reason to extend support for an existing platform in this situation is because the roadmap has thinned out for consumers. There's not going to be stuff for you. They're not selling to you. They're selling to data centers, or trying to anyway. They're not as relevant, but they're trying. And extending the support while also launching old generation products, it has all kind of the makings of a good PR play, because people like the 5800X3D, they like AM4. 5800X3D hasn't really been available for a while, so it's nice to have that option again for people, but it's at a high price. And really, it's the memory that's driving a lot of the interest in that for people who can't go to new platforms. And then also the thinning out of new products is why we're seeing that extension. AMD in a few days will be pretending to launch a new GPU that it launched last year, but the company is working to put media under NDA to review a card that we reviewed months ago with the Waifu Edition. AMD is launching the RX 9070 GRE. We'll show some numbers from our 9070 GRE review from February. At the time, the price was $535 to $650 US. We'll find out what AMD's fake MSRP is for the rest of the world on June 3rd, because this was originally a China launch, although you could get it anywhere. And AMD has had a proven track record of misleading launch MSRPs for the 90 series. The 9070 GRE has 3072 stream processors, 48 compute units, 96 ROPs, and 12 gigabytes of GDDR6 VRAM on a 192-bit memory bus. Memory bandwidth is 432 gigabytes per second or so. For reference, the 9070 non-XT non-GRE has 3584 stream processors and 56 CUs, 16 gigabytes of VRAM, and a significantly higher bandwidth of 644 gigabytes per second. TDP is 220 watts on each card. Some quick numbers in Dragon's Dogma 2 at 4K. In our 9070 GRE review, we found the base 9070 to run 26% ahead of the GRE and the XT to run 43% ahead. The GRE outperformed the 9060 XT by 35%, with the 5070 ahead by 14% in that test. In our Cyberpunk 4K benchmarks, non-ray traced, the 9070 ran a 19% higher frame rate than the GRE, with the 9070 XT at 34% ahead. We have plenty of other charts in our original review with a detailed analysis on the card if you want to see those. Just a couple more. Baldur's Gate 3 at 4K. The 9070 GRE sat between the 6800 XT and the 3080 FTW3. And Kingdom Come Deliverance 2 at 4K, we have the 9070 GRE at 41 FPS average, behind the 49 FPS of the 9070 and significantly behind the 54 of the 9070 XT. We have plenty more in that review, which we'll link below if you're curious about it. We'd appreciate you checking it out to boost it in the algorithm. I know I've said it, but I really just want to underscore that you can't NDA a thing that's already on the market. And I would really prefer to not see people play that game, because it sets a bad precedent. We've bought stuff on the market before and just reviewed it when technically it wasn't launched to, say, the West or the US, but you can't embargo that. You can't put someone under NDA for doing literally commerce, which is just buying a thing and reviewing it, or emailing a manufacturer of it and saying, can I test that? That's not embargoable by AMD. Anyway, with all this going on, AMD's Lisa Su has continued to embed herself with the US government. She's continued to make appearances and talk about people like Michael Kratsios or Howard Lutnick, who has been an associate of Jeffrey Epstein for a very long time, and really make some, I think, questionable connections. But at least it's clear that AMD only needed consumers to get to the point where they weren't going to go out of business imminently, and then they didn't need them anymore. They've turned post-consumer, B2B, like everyone else. They throw a couple things out there as scraps for you to buy to hold you over, extend the life of AM5 to 2029 because they're not going to have anything else, or not much anyway, and that's how we end up where we are now. So in the very least, I do want to say, for those of you who were doing the distant screaming and booing at the MIT commencement speech, thank you, because that's what we need more of. And these birds. I'm not sure if they're real or not.
This is definitely real.
Kind of looks like a Sony sensor, maybe possibly Canon's, I'm not sure, but subscribe for more. Go to store.cameronexus.net to support us directly and use code ITOLDYOUSO to get a free pack of Snowflake the Data Pirate coins. We have more all week at Computex. Thanks for watching. We'll see you all next time.